The Mind-Hacking Guide, How to Instantly Connect and Persuade Anyone. Audiobook. Reading by Coleman Hudson. Published by A1 Audiobook. Introduction. The Connection Gap. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling utterly misunderstood? Or watched a promotion, a sale, or a relationship slip through your fingers, not because your logic was flawed, but because you just couldn't connect? We live in the most connected time in human history, yet we often feel more isolated than ever. The skill that will define success and happiness in the 21st century isn't what you know, but how well you can connect with what others know, feel, and desire. This book is not a collection of parlor tricks. It is a systematic guide to mastering that single life-altering skill. If you commit to reading it from start to finish, you won't just learn a few tips. You will rewire the very way you see and interact with every person you meet for the rest of your life. The key to unlocking your full potential lies within these pages. Don't just skim it, master it. The air in the boardroom was cold, the kind of manufactured chill designed to keep executives sharp. Michael adjusted his tie, his heart thumping a steady, anxious rhythm against his ribs. This was the biggest meeting of his career. For 6 weeks, he had lived and breathed the Apex project, a comprehensive proposal for a new logistics system that would save his potential client, a national retail chain, millions of dollars. His data was flawless. His slides were a masterclass in minimalist design. He had rehearsed his pitch until the words felt like they were etched into his DNA. He was ready. For the first 20 minutes, everything went according to plan. He walked the 3 senior executives through the numbers, outlining the supply chain inefficiencies and demonstrating with irrefutable logic how his system was the superior solution. He was clear, concise, and professional. He answered their questions with precision. Yet as he spoke, he felt a strange and growing sense of disconnect. The executives nodded, but their eyes were glassy. They looked at the screen, but they weren't seeing the vision. They were listening to the words, but they weren't hearing the music. He finished with his strongest slide, a projection of their 5-year savings, and looked up, expecting a wave of enthusiasm. Instead, he was met with a polite, impenetrable silence. Finally, the senior vice president, a man named Mr. Peterson, leaned forward. He steepled his fingers, looked Michael in the eye, and said the words that would haunt him for months. "This is very thorough, Michael. Really impressive data, but I'm not sure it's the right fit for our culture right now. We appreciate the time you've taken." And just like that, it was over. 6 weeks of work, gone. Walking out of that building and into the bustling city street, Michael wasn't just disappointed, he was profoundly confused. He had presented a perfect argument. The logic was undeniable. Why didn't they get it? It felt like he'd been speaking a different language. In a way, he had. Michael had fallen into a chasm that swallows brilliant ideas, stalls promising careers, and fractures relationships every single day. I call it the connection gap, the vast, empty space between the logic of our message and the heart of our audience. He had spent all his energy building a perfect case, assuming that rational facts alone would persuade. But he had failed to do the real work. He never stopped to understand the people in the room. What were their fears? What was their culture? Was Mr. Peterson worried about the disruption to his longtime employees? Was another executive feeling threatened by the new technology? Michael didn't know. He never tried to find out. He talked at them, not with them. He focused so intently on his solution that he completely missed their problem. This gap is the reason why the smartest person in the room doesn't always get the job, why the most deserving products don't always sell, and why our best advice to loved ones often falls on deaf ears. We believe our success is determined by the quality of our ideas, our work, or our intentions. The hard truth is that the value of our contributions is ultimately decided by one thing: our ability to get them across to another human being. What if you could close that gap? What if you could walk into any room, a boardroom, a first date, a family dinner, and instantly understand the unspoken dynamics? What if you could build a bridge of trust in minutes, not months? What if you could have your ideas not just heard, but felt, embraced, and acted upon? This is the promise of this book. I am going to hand you the operator's manual for human connection you were never given. This isn't about learning cheesy pickup lines or manipulative sales tactics. It's not about changing who you are. It's about unlocking the most effective, authentic, and influential version of yourself by learning to see and interact with the world through other people's eyes. To do this, we don't need 1,000 different tricks. We need a single, powerful framework that can be applied to any situation. I call it the D.A.R protocol. It's a simple, 3-step process for building genuine connection and creating ethical influence. Decode. This is the art and science of truly understanding the other person. Before you can persuade anyone of anything, you must first see the world from their perspective. Decoding is about listening beneath the words to uncover the underlying emotions, values, beliefs, and motivations that drive their behavior. It's like seeing the source code behind their actions. Align. Once you have decoded their world, this is the process of building a bridge to it. Alignment is about finding authentic common ground and demonstrating that you are on the same side. It's where you move beyond surface-level rapport to establish deep and genuine trust, making the other person feel seen, heard, and valued. Resonate. With the foundation of understanding and trust in place, this is the final step where you craft your message and presence to land with maximum impact. When you resonate, your ideas don't just make logical sense, they make emotional sense. They fit into the other person's worldview, address their decoded needs, and inspire them to agree or take action, not because they've been pressured, but because it feels like the natural and right thing to do. Throughout this book, we will break down each of these stages into simple, actionable steps. We'll explore the cutting-edge neuroscience of empathy, the psychology of trust, and the behavioral science behind charisma and influence. We'll look at stories of expert communicators, from FBI hostage negotiators to world-class CEOs, and deconstruct their methods into techniques you can start using today. Michael lost the Apex project because he only had a map of his own mind. He didn't have a map of his clients' minds. This book will teach you how to be a master cartographer of human connection, able to navigate any social landscape with confidence and grace. The ability to connect is not a gift you're born with, it's a skill you build. It is the single greatest advantage you can have in your career, your relationships, and your life. The journey to closing the connection gap starts now. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Operator's Manual You Never Got. Hacking Your Own Mind First. You're driving home after a long day, cruising in the right lane, minding your own business. Suddenly, a silver sedan blurs past on your left, cuts you off with barely an inch to spare, and slams on its brakes to make a last-second exit. Your heart leaps into your throat. You honk, maybe you yell a few choice words at your windshield. Your mind instantly paints a portrait of the person behind the wheel. What a reckless, arrogant jerk! A completely selfish human being who thinks the rules don't apply to them. An hour later, you're running late to meet a friend for dinner. You realize your turn is coming up much faster than you expected. You quickly check your mirror, see an opening, and zip across a lane to make the exit. The car behind you lays on its horn. You wince, feeling a flash of guilt, but you think to yourself, "Sorry, I'm just so late and this is the only way I could make it." Sound familiar? In the first scenario, the anonymous driver was a bad person. Their action defined their character. In the second scenario, you were a good person caught in a bad situation. Your intention justified your action. Same action, two completely different verdicts. Welcome to the buggy, biased, and brilliant operating system of the human mind. Before you can even begin to understand, connect with, or persuade anyone else, you have to face a fundamental and often uncomfortable truth. The tool you're using to perceive the world is not a perfectly calibrated scientific instrument. It's a powerful but flawed machine running on ancient software, full of glitches, blind spots, and shortcuts that were designed for survival on the savannah, not for navigating the complexities of a modern boardroom or a delicate conversation with a loved one. Trying to connect with others without first understanding your own mental programming is like trying to perform surgery with a dirty scalpel. You'll do more harm than good. The first step in hacking the human mind is to run a full diagnostic on your own. This chapter is your operator's manual, the one you never got. We'll explore 3 of the most critical bugs in our cognitive code that create the biggest barriers to connection. Master these, and you'll have taken the first giant leap toward becoming a master communicator. Cognitive bug number 1, the judgment glitch, fundamental attribution error. The story about the driver is a textbook example of the most pervasive bias in our social lives, the fundamental attribution error. It's a fancy term for a simple glitch in our thinking. We judge other people by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. When someone else, like our colleague David, misses a deadline, we attribute it to his character. He's lazy, disorganized, or unreliable. When we miss a deadline, we attribute it to our situation. We had a brutal week, the kids were sick, or another department was a bottleneck. His failure is a flaw in his personality. Our failure is a response to external pressure. This cognitive shortcut is poison to connection. It makes us prosecutors of other people's behavior and defense attorneys for our own. It creates a world of us versus them, where we are the well-intentioned heroes of our own stories, and others are, at best, flawed supporting characters, and at worst, villains. You cannot effectively decode someone, the first step of our protocol, if you've already judged and convicted them. The moment you label the driver a jerk, you've stopped being curious. You've closed the case. What if he was racing to the hospital because his child was having an asthma attack? What if he just got laid off and was driving in a daze of panic? We don't know, and because of this glitch, we rarely stop to ask. Hacking this bug doesn't mean you have to excuse bad behavior. It just means you have to suspend judgment long enough to consider the situation before you condemn the character. Cognitive bug number 2, the echo chamber, confirmation bias. Imagine you're a hiring manager named Laura, and you're interviewing 2 candidates for a key position. The first candidate, Kevin, walks in and you immediately get a good feeling. He's charismatic, he reminds you of a younger version of your favorite college professor, and he answers the first question beautifully. Your brain subtly whispers, "This is the one." The second candidate, Jennifer, is a bit more reserved. Her answers are solid, but she doesn't have the same polished charm. Your brain whispers, probably not a great fit. For the rest of the interview process, what do you think Laura is doing? She's not impartially evaluating them. She is actively, though unconsciously, looking for evidence that confirms her initial snap judgment. She asks Kevin leading questions that allow him to shine. She interprets his brief work history as a sign of diverse experience. She asks Jennifer tough, skeptical questions and interprets her thoughtful pauses as indecisiveness. This is confirmation bias in action. It's our brain's tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information that confirms or supports our pre-existing beliefs. Our mind is not a scientist, objectively seeking truth. It's a lawyer, building a case for a conclusion it has already reached. In the age of the internet, this bias is on overdrive. We follow people on social media who think like us. We watch news channels that validate our worldview. We build an informational cocoon around ourselves that echoes back what we already believe, making us more certain and more polarized every day. When it comes to connection, this bias is devastating. If you walk into a conversation believing your boss is a micromanager, you will only see evidence of her micromanaging. You'll interpret her helpful check-in email as a lack of trust. You'll see her request for a project update as proof she's controlling. You will be blind to any data that suggests she might just be trying to be a supportive and engaged leader. You cannot align with someone, the second step of our protocol, if you are living in a completely different reality, filtered through your own biases. You're not connecting with them. You're connecting with a caricature you've created in your own mind. Cognitive bug number 3, the expert illusion, the Dunning-Kruger effect. In 1995, a man named MacArthur Wheeler robbed 2 banks in Pittsburgh in broad daylight without a mask. When the police arrested him later that day, he was genuinely shocked. "But I wore the juice," he muttered in disbelief. Wheeler was under the impression that rubbing lemon juice on his face would make him invisible to security cameras. He wasn't crazy, he was just profoundly incompetent, and so incompetent that he couldn't recognize his own incompetence. This bizarre incident inspired a famous study by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, which identified a cognitive bias now known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. In short, it's the phenomenon where people with low ability in a skill tend to dramatically overestimate their competence. It is the very definition of not knowing what you don't know. We see this everywhere. The amateur investor who thinks he can beat the market after watching a few YouTube videos. The new manager who thinks leadership is just about telling people what to do. And most dangerously for our purposes, the person who believes they are a fantastic communicator simply because they like to talk. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the ultimate barrier to growth. If you believe you're already an expert at connection and persuasion, why would you ever read a book like this? Why would you practice deep listening or try to decode nonverbal cues? You wouldn't. You'd be stuck at the peak of what Dunning and Kruger call Mount Stupid, blissfully unaware of the vast landscape of knowledge and skill that lies beyond. To truly master the D.A.R protocol and have your message resonate, the third step, you must first have the humility to accept that you might not be as good as you think you are. You must be willing to descend from Mount Stupid and become a student again. Becoming the conscious operator. These 3 biases, the fundamental attribution error, confirmation bias, and the Dunning-Kruger effect, are not personal failings. They are universal features of the human mind. They are the default settings. You cannot delete them. You cannot fix your brain to eliminate them entirely. But you can become a conscious operator. You can learn to recognize the glitches as they happen. You can learn to override the default programming and choose a more intentional response. This is the foundational skill of mind hacking. It's not about manipulating others. It's about achieving a state of radical self-awareness that allows you to see the world and the people in it with stunning clarity. It's about taking your hands off the autopilot controls and learning to fly the plane yourself. The rest of this book will show you exactly how to do that, but the journey always begins with this first crucial step. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 1, Exercises. 1. The other side of the story. The next time you find yourself making a quick, negative judgment about someone, a slow cashier, a short-tempered colleague, that driver who cut you off, hit pause. Take 30 seconds and write down or mentally list 3 alternative explanations for their behavior that are based on their situation, not their character. This exercise directly counters the fundamental attribution error and builds your empathy muscle. The next time you form a strong opinion about a person, an idea, or a decision, stop and ask yourself one powerful question. What evidence could I see that would prove me wrong? This question forces your brain to switch off its confirmation bias filter and actively scan for contradictory information, making your final assessment far more balanced. 3. The beginner's mindset log. Pick one area where you feel pretty competent, giving advice, writing emails, managing meetings. Spend 15 minutes this week learning about it from a true expert. Watch a TED Talk, read an article from a leading researcher, or listen to a podcast. Then write down 3 things you learned that you didn't know before. This practice is a direct antidote to the Dunning-Kruger effect and cultivates the humility needed for true mastery. The takeaway: your first diagnostic. The problem: we cannot connect effectively with others until we understand the biases in our own minds. Our brains are not objective tools. They run on flawed, ancient software. The glitches. 3 key biases block our ability to connect. Fundamental attribution error. We judge others by their actions, ourselves by our intentions. Confirmation bias. We see what we already believe to be true. Dunning-Kruger effect. We are often blind to our own incompetence. The goal is to become a conscious operator of your mind, recognizing these biases as they happen and choosing a more intentional way of thinking. This self-awareness is the non-negotiable first step to connecting with anyone. Chapter 2. The Authenticity Paradox: Why True Influence Feels Like Truth. Ethan felt his smile starting to ache. He was at a downtown networking event, a cavernous room buzzing with the clinking of glasses and the low hum of ambition. He was on the hunt for new clients for his marketing agency. Tucked into his blazer pocket was a stack of business cards, and in his head was a script of power phrases he learned from a sales guru online. He spotted a promising target, a woman who was listed on the event program as the head of a fast-growing tech company. He swooped in. "Great event, isn't it?" he began, flashing his practiced high-wattage smile. He gave her the firm handshake the guru recommended. 2 confident pumps, no more, no less. Before she could fully respond, he launched into his elevator pitch, a perfectly memorized 30-second monologue about synergistic solutions and value-driven metrics. He watched her face as he spoke. He saw a polite nod, but her eyes were scanning the room over his shoulder. He felt a familiar sense of panic. He was losing her. So he doubled down, trying to sound even more confident, more polished, more of an expert. He leaned in slightly, a technique meant to create rapport. Instead, she took a subtle step back. When he finished, breathless, she gave him a tight, professional smile. "Very interesting. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you." She took one of his cards, but he knew, with a sinking certainty, that it was heading for the nearest trash can. As she walked away, Ethan was left with a bitter taste of frustration. He had done everything right. He projected confidence. He had a perfect pitch. He used all the tricks. Why did it feel so wrong? Ethan had stumbled headfirst into one of the most fundamental and misunderstood principles of human connection, the authenticity paradox. The paradox is this: the more you intentionally try to be persuasive, the less persuasive you become. True, lasting influence isn't something you manufacture with tactics. It's a natural byproduct of being authentic. We think of influence as a performance. We polish our scripts, perfect our smiles, and craft an impeccable image of competence, hoping people will buy what we're selling. But human beings have spent millennia developing a highly sensitive internal BS detector. When something feels fake, forced, or overly polished, alarm bells go off in our brains. We don't lean in, we pull back. We don't trust, we become suspicious. Ethan's mistake wasn't in his desire to connect, it was in his method. He was trying to run a persuasion program on someone, and her mind rejected the code. This chapter is about uninstalling that faulty program. It's about understanding why authenticity is the most potent tool in your communication arsenal and how to wield it without being naive or unprofessional. Your brain on fake, the neuroscience of distrust. To understand why Ethan's approach failed so spectacularly, we need to look inside the head of the woman he was talking to. The moment he began his polished performance, her brain started a subconscious threat assessment. Deep in our temporal lobes is a small almond-shaped cluster of neurons called the amygdala. This is the brain's vigilant security guard. Its primary job is to scan the environment for potential threats. When the amygdala senses a threat, like a growling dog or, in this case, a person who seems inauthentic, it triggers a fight or flight response. It floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline. Crucially, when the amygdala fires up, it effectively hijacks the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought, open-mindedness, and complex decision-making. The person you're talking to, literally, neurologically, cannot think clearly or be open to your ideas when their brain perceives you as a fake. Their defenses are up. The drawbridge to their mind is closed. Now, consider the opposite. When you interact with someone who feels genuine, who is comfortable in their own skin, and whose words seem to align with their true feelings, your brain has a very different reaction. It releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or trust hormone. Oxytocin lowers the defenses of the amygdala and fosters feelings of safety, connection, and, well, trust. When oxytocin is flowing, the prefrontal cortex can do its job. The person you're talking to can listen openly. They can engage with your ideas. The drawbridge to their mind is down. This is why true influence feels like truth, because on a chemical level, it is. It's a signal of safety that tells the other person's brain, you can lower your guard. What you see is what you get. Sleazy tactics are an attack on the amygdala. Authenticity is a handshake with it. Authenticity is not a license to be a jerk. This is where many people get it wrong. They hear be authentic and interpret it as be unfiltered. They use it as an excuse to vent their every thought, ignore social graces, or overshare their personal problems. That's not authenticity, that's a lack of social intelligence. Strategic authenticity is not about dumping your raw, unfiltered self onto the table. It's about ensuring that what you do present is a true and accurate reflection of your values and beliefs. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. Let's break this down into two actionable components. 1. Communicate from your core values. You cannot be authentic if you don't know what you stand for. Your core values like honesty, creativity, growth, or community are your internal compass. When your communication aligns with that compass, it has weight and power. When it doesn't, it feels hollow. Before a high-stakes conversation, don't just ask, what do I want to achieve? Ask, who do I want to be in this interaction? If one of your core values is clarity, your communication will be direct, simple, and honest, cutting through jargon and corporate speak. If another value is compassion, you will listen patiently and speak with kindness, even when delivering difficult news. Your influence will come not from a clever turn of phrase, but from the undeniable integrity of your message. People are drawn to those who have a strong inner compass because it makes them predictable and trustworthy. 2. Prioritize passion over polish. Think about the last time you were truly captivated by a speaker. Was it because their PowerPoint slides were flawless and they never once said Or was it because you could feel their genuine, unshakable passion for the topic? Passion is contagious. It's a raw, emotional energy that bypasses the logical brain and speaks directly to the heart. A perfectly polished but lifeless presentation is like a technically perfect but soulless piece of music. It's impressive, but it doesn't move you. Consider the story of Maria, a startup founder pitching her educational app to a room of venture capitalists. Her competitors had slicker presentations and more impressive financial models. When it was Maria's turn, she was visibly nervous. She fumbled a slide transition. But when she started talking about why she built the app, telling a story about her younger brother struggling to learn with outdated tools, the energy in the room shifted. Her voice was filled with conviction that couldn't be faked. The investors didn't just see a business plan, they saw her unwavering belief. They weren't just investing in a product, they were investing in her. She walked out with the funding because her authentic passion was more persuasive than any polished pitch. Authenticity is the operating system on which the D.A.R protocol runs. Without it, you're just learning hollow tactics. You can't decode someone accurately if you're too busy performing. You can't align with them if there's no real you for them to align with. And your message will never resonate if it doesn't come from a place of truth. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 2. Exercises. 1. The Core Value Compass. Take 5 minutes. Write down a list of words that are important to you, e.g., integrity, fun, excellence, kindness, innovation, stability. Circle the top 3 to 5 that feel most essential to who you are. These are your core values. Before your next important meeting or conversation, look at these words and ask, how can I embody these values right now? 2. The Passion Audit. Grab your phone and record 2 short voice memos. For the first, explain a topic you have to talk about for work that feels like a chore. For the second, explain a hobby, a movie, or a project you are genuinely geek-out level passionate about. Listen to both recordings. Hear the difference in your energy, your tone, your pacing. The goal is to learn how to bring more of that second memo energy into your professional communication. 3. The Truth Filter Check. Turn this into a pre-conversation ritual. Before you enter a meeting, send an email, or make a call, ask yourself this simple question. Is what I'm about to do and say a true reflection of what I believe? This quick check can stop you from falling into the trap of people-pleasing or posturing and keep you anchored in your authentic self. The takeaway: your foundation of trust. The problem: we mistakenly believe influence comes from a perfect, polished performance. This approach triggers distrust in others and makes us feel like imposters. The authenticity paradox. The more you chase persuasion with tactics, the more it flees. Lasting influence is a byproduct of being genuine. The science. Inauthentic behavior triggers the brain's threat detector, the amygdala, shutting down openness and logic. Authentic behavior releases the trust hormone, oxytocin, fostering connection. The solution. Build your communication on a foundation of your core values and prioritize sharing your genuine passion over delivering a flawless script. Strategic authenticity isn't about being unfiltered, it's about making sure what you present is real. This is the non-negotiable foundation for everything that follows. Chapter 3. Decode, the Art of Deep Listening. Mark was pretty sure he was being a great husband. His wife, Jessica, had just walked in the door, sighing as she dropped her keys into the bowl on the hall table. "Rough day?" he asked from the kitchen. "The worst," she said, her voice strained. "Remember that presentation I was working on for the quarterly review? Well, my boss, Mr. Henderson, decided at 11 a.m. that he wanted to go in a completely different direction. I had to redo the entire thing in 4 hours. Mark, a natural problem solver, immediately switched into fix-it mode. "Okay, that's infuriating," he said, wiping his hands on a towel. "But it's done, right? You should document this. Send him a polite but firm email summarizing the last-minute change request. It creates a paper trail so he can't pull this again. That's what I'd do." Jessica was silent for a moment. "I'm not looking to start a war with my boss, Mark." "It's not a war," he countered. "It's just smart corporate strategy. You have to protect yourself. Did you save the old version? You can show him the delta in the work and—" "Stop," she said, her voice quiet but sharp. "Just stop." He looked up, confused. "I'm just trying to help." "I know," she said, her shoulders slumping. "But I don't need a consultant right now. I just need a husband." She walked into the living room, leaving Mark alone in the kitchen, wondering what on earth he'd done wrong. Mark is a good person with great intentions, but he failed a critical communication test. He heard the words, but he completely missed the music. He was listening, but he wasn't deep listening. We're taught that listening is a passive activity. We just have to shut our mouths and let the other person talk. More advanced advice tells us to practice active listening, nodding, making eye contact, and paraphrasing back what the other person said. So, what I'm hearing you say is, this is a fine start, but it's the equivalent of learning to spell without learning how to read. It mimics understanding without achieving it. Deep listening is the next level. It's the foundational skill of the decode stage of our protocol. It's not about waiting for your turn to talk or even just confirming the facts. It is the active, disciplined art of searching for the unspoken emotion and underlying meaning behind the words. It's the difference between hearing, "I had to redo a presentation," and understanding, "I feel devalued, exhausted, and powerless." Mark heard a logistical problem that needed a solution. Jessica was communicating an emotional wound that needed to be seen. Until that emotion was acknowledged, no solution in the world would ever land. The bouncer in your brain, emotion before logic. To understand why deep listening is so powerful, you have to understand a basic wiring principle of the human brain. Think of the mind as a nightclub. The thinking brain, your neocortex, responsible for logic, reason, and language, is the exclusive VIP room where all the important decisions are made. But to get in, you have to get past the bouncer. That bouncer is the emotional brain, your limbic system, especially the amygdala we met in Chapter 2. The bouncer doesn't listen to complex arguments or brilliant logic. It operates on a simple, primal level. Do I feel safe? Do I feel understood? Do I feel respected? If the bouncer feels threatened, ignored, or dismissed, the velvet rope stays up. The door to the VIP room slams shut. It doesn't matter how brilliant your logical argument is. It's not getting in. Mark tried to storm past the bouncer with his solutions and strategies. He was talking directly to Jessica's thinking brain, completely ignoring the emotional bouncer who had his arms crossed, blocking the door. This is why so many of our arguments go in circles. We're busy presenting evidence to the VIP room while the person we're talking to is still stuck outside, feeling emotionally unheard. Deep listening is the art of befriending the bouncer. It's how you get the velvet rope to part, allowing your message to walk right into the club. Here are two of the most powerful techniques to do it. Decode technique number 1, the emotional X-ray, labeling. This technique is so powerful and so counterintuitive that it's used by FBI hostage negotiators to de-escalate the most high-stakes conversations on the planet. It's called labeling, the act of calmly and respectfully identifying and naming the other person's emotion. It's not about telling them how they feel, "You're angry." It's about making an observant guess that allows them to confirm or deny it, using phrases that start with, "It seems like," "It sounds like," "It looks like." Let's rewind the tape and give Mark this tool. Jessica says, "I had to redo the entire thing in 4 hours." Instead of offering a solution, Mark takes a breath, focuses on the music behind her words, and tries a label. Mark, the deep listener, "Wow, it sounds like you're incredibly frustrated and feel like your work wasn't valued." What happens in Jessica's brain at that moment is magic. The instant someone accurately names our emotion, it's like a pressure valve is released. The emotional bouncer relaxes his stance and nods, thinking, "This guy gets it." The simple act of being seen and understood reduces the intensity of the emotion itself. Neuroscientists have even shown that labeling an emotion can reduce activity in the amygdala. Jessica would likely respond with a rush of validation. "Exactly. It was like the whole morning was a complete waste of time." Notice what Mark did not say. He didn't say, "I understand how you feel." This phrase, while well-intentioned, often backfires. It can feel dismissive, as if you're equating their unique pain with something you experienced. Labeling is better because it's not about you. It's a spotlight you shine on their experience, making them feel like the center of the universe. Decode technique number 2, mine for the unsaid. Once you've successfully used a label to acknowledge the emotion, you can go deeper. The surface story, the redone presentation, is rarely the real story. The real story is the meaning the person has attached to it. Your job is to become a conversational archaeologist and gently dig for that meaning. You do this by asking simple, open-ended questions that invite reflection, not interrogation. You are mining for the unsaid. Bad questions are why questions, which can put people on the defensive, like, why do you let him treat you like that? Good mining questions are what and how questions that are collaborative and non-judgmental. Here are some of your best tools. What was the hardest part about that for you? How did that impact the rest of your day? What's the real challenge here in your mind? And the simplest, most powerful of all, tell me more. Let's go back to our scene. After Mark's successful label, Jessica says, "Exactly. It was like the whole morning was a complete waste of time." Mark, now a master miner. That sounds exhausting. What was the hardest part about that for you? This question is a powerful invitation. It asks Jessica to look past the facts of the event and into the heart of her feelings. Jessica? Honestly, it's feeling like I'm completely powerless, like all my best thinking doesn't matter if he's in a bad mood. It makes me question if I'm even in the right job. And there it is, the real story. It was never about a presentation. It was about her sense of value, her autonomy, and her career path. By labeling the emotion and then mining for the unsaid, Mark journeyed in 2 simple steps from a surface-level problem to the core of her experience. Now, and only now, is he in a position to truly connect, align, and eventually, if it's even needed, help solve anything. He has befriended the bouncer and has been welcomed into the VIP room of her mind. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 3. Exercises. 1. The Silent Labeler. For the next 2 days, practice labeling silently. When you're watching a TV show, listening to a podcast, or observing a conversation between others, make a mental note of the emotions you detect. Say it in your head. It seems like he's feeling defensive. It sounds like she's disappointed. This builds the muscle of looking for emotion without the pressure of speaking. 2. The 10-minute listening challenge. Ask a friend or partner to tell you about their day. For the first 10 minutes, your only job is to deep listen. You are not allowed to offer advice, share a similar story about yourself, or try to solve their problem. You can only use labeling and mining questions. Your goal is not to respond, but simply to understand their world as completely as possible. 3. Deploy a what question. The next time someone comes to you with a problem, resist the urge to jump in with a solution. After you listen for a moment, deploy one of these mining questions. What's the real challenge here? Or what's most important for you in this situation? Notice how it changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. The takeaway? Hearing the music, not just the words. The problem, we listen to respond, fix, or win an argument. We hear the words, logic, but miss the music, which is where the real meaning lies. The core principle, the emotional brain is the gatekeeper to the logical brain. You must connect with the emotion first before any idea or solution can get through. Decode Technique 1. Labeling. Defuse negative emotion and build trust by calmly naming what you observe. It seems like you're feeling. This shows you're paying attention to what truly matters. Decode Technique 2. Mining for the unsaid. Go beyond the surface story by asking open-ended what and how questions to uncover the underlying needs, values, and fears. The goal? Deep listening is the first and most critical step of the decode process. It's how you gather the essential intelligence needed to build a bridge of authentic connection. Master this, and you've mastered half the battle. Chapter 4. Decode. Reading the Nonverbal Code. Amelia felt like she was on fire. She was sitting across a polished mahogany table from Charles Davies, a notoriously sharp-witted investor she'd been trying to meet with for 6 months. Her pitch for Chrono, her new productivity app, was going perfectly. She was hitting all her key metrics, her voice was steady, and Mr. Davies was nodding along, saying all the right things. "This is a very interesting market entry," he said, his face a mask of polite neutrality. "Your user acquisition strategy seems sound." Amelia's confidence soared. He was agreeing with her. He was validating her ideas. She pressed her advantage, moving to her 5-year growth projections, the most ambitious part of her plan. As she laid out the hockey stick curve of her projected revenue, she focused entirely on her well-rehearsed script. When she finished, she looked up, expecting to see a man ready to write a check. Instead, a chill ran down her spine. Mr. Davies was still nodding, but something was off. His smile was a thin, tight line. His body, which had been relaxed and open, was now subtly angled toward the door. One of his hands was rubbing the back of his neck, a gesture she'd missed while she was focused on her slides. "Impressive numbers, Amelia," he said, his voice as smooth as ever. "Let me discuss this with my partners and we'll be in touch." She knew instantly what that meant. It was the investor's version of "don't call us, we'll call you." The meeting was over. Walking out of his office, Amelia was baffled. His words had been positive, but the feeling in the room was a resounding no. What had she missed? Amelia had been paying attention to only one conversation, the one coming out of his mouth. But there was a second conversation happening the entire time, a silent, honest, and far more important one. She had failed to read the nonverbal code. If deep listening, Chapter 3, is about hearing the music behind the words, reading the nonverbal code is about seeing the music. Pioneering researcher Albert Morabian famously found that in certain situations involving feelings and attitudes, our perception of a message is overwhelmingly dictated by nonverbal cues. His numbers broke down to roughly 7% words, 38% tone of voice, and 55% body language. While the exact percentages are often debated and taken out of context, the core insight is undeniable. When a person's words and their body language are in conflict, we almost always believe the body. Amelia's investor said he was impressed, but his body was screaming discomfort and skepticism. His words were social courtesy, his nonverbals were the truth. This chapter is about learning to tune into that second conversation. But forget the simplistic body language dictionaries you might have seen online. The idea that folded arms always means defensive, or that looking up and to the right always means someone is lying, is dangerous nonsense. A person might have their arms folded because they're cold, or because it's comfortable. True mastery of the nonverbal code comes from a more sophisticated two-part framework: the cluster and the shift. The cluster. Never interpret a single gesture in isolation. Look for a cluster of 2 to 3 signals that all point in the same direction. One signal is a guess. A cluster is data. The shift. Pay obsessive attention to changes from a person's baseline behavior. The most important signal is the moment someone shifts from relaxed to tense, from open to closed, from engaged to distracted. Your goal is not to become a human lie detector, but a master of observation. It's a critical part of the decode process, giving you a stream of data that is often more honest than the words you hear. Let's break it down into the 3 main channels you need to watch. Channel 1. The body. Posture, gestures, and space. Your body is constantly broadcasting your internal state. We can group the most important signals into 2 camps: expansive signals, high confidence, and contractive signals, low confidence. Expansive signals, the open door. These are signs of comfort, power, and openness. Think of someone leaning back with their arms spread on the back of the couch, or standing with their feet shoulder-width apart, or using broad, open palm gestures. Their body is taking up space. It's saying, I am comfortable and confident here. Even the direction of a person's feet is a tell. People tend to point their feet in the direction they want to go. If you're talking to someone and their feet are aimed at you, they're engaged. If their feet are aimed at the exit, their mind is already leaving the conversation. Contractive signals, the closed door. These are signs of stress, anxiety, or discomfort. Think of someone hunched over, crossing their arms tightly, touching their neck or face, or tucking their feet under their chair. Their body is trying to make itself smaller to self-protect. Amelia's investor rubbing the back of his neck was a classic self-soothing gesture, a subconscious attempt to calm a feeling of stress or discomfort triggered by her ambitious projections. Channel 2, the face, beyond the smile. The face is the most expressive part of our body, but it's also the one we're best at controlling. We all know how to put on a polite social smile when we have to, but a real smile is almost impossible to fake. Look for the Duchenne smile. This is a genuine smile of happiness, and its secret is in the eyes. A real smile involves not just the corners of the mouth turning up, but also the muscles around the eyes crinkling, creating crow's feet. A fake social smile only involves the mouth. It doesn't reach the eyes. Even more powerful than spotting a fake smile is spotting a micro-expression. These are split-second involuntary facial expressions that reveal a person's true emotion. They were researched extensively by Dr. Paul Ekman. While it takes training to see them all, there's one you should always watch for: contempt. A look of contempt is a slight, one-sided raising of the lip corner, like a tiny sneer. It can last for less than a second, but according to relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman, it is the single most powerful predictor of divorce in couples. In a business context, it's a killer. It signals pure disgust and dismissal. If you see it, you know you have a major problem. Your message has been rejected on a visceral level. Channel 3, the voice, the unspoken story. We often forget that our voice is a physical instrument. Its pitch, pace, and volume are directly influenced by our emotional state. This is the total part of Mehrabian's 38%. Pitch. When we are nervous or excited, our vocal cords tighten and our pitch tends to go up. When we feel confident and authoritative, our pitch is often lower and more resonant. Pay special attention to the end of sentences. Does the person's voice go up in pitch, as if asking a question, even when making a declarative statement? This is often a signal of a lack of conviction in what they are saying. Pace. A fast pace can signal excitement or anxiety. A slow, deliberate pace can signal thoughtfulness or a desire to command attention. A sudden shift in pace is a huge tell. If someone who has been speaking quickly suddenly slows down to make a point, your ears should perk up. That's what they want you to remember. Volume. This is obvious but often overlooked. A sudden drop in volume can signal intimacy or importance. A sudden increase can signal aggression or a loss of emotional control. The cluster and the shift in action. Let's rewind the tape on Amelia's meeting one last time. Establishing the baseline. For the first 15 minutes, Mr. Davies was showing a cluster of expansive signals. He was leaning back, relaxed posture. His hands were loosely clasped, open gesture, and his voice was at a calm, even pace. This was his baseline interested state. Spotting the shift. The moment Amelia got to her 5-year projections, a shift occurred. Reading the new cluster. The new cluster of signals was body angled toward the door, desire to escape, hand rubbing his neck, self-soothing, stress, smile that didn't reach his eyes, social, not genuine. This cluster was the real feedback. It wasn't saying, "You're wrong." It was saying, "I'm not comfortable with this. It feels too risky." Had Amelia been reading this second conversation, she could have paused her pitch and addressed the unspoken feeling. She could have said, "I know these numbers look ambitious. It seems like this might be the part of the plan that feels the most uncertain." That single sentence would have acknowledged his unspoken concern, brought the second conversation out into the open, and given her a chance to rebuild the connection. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 4. Exercises. 1. The mute button drill. This is the best way to train your nonverbal eye. Watch an interview or a scene from a drama series on your computer with the sound muted. Can you tell who has the power in the scene? Who is comfortable? Who is stressed? Who likes whom? Guess what's happening, then rewind and watch it with sound to see how accurate you were. 2. Baseline journaling. You are already a subconscious expert at reading the nonverbals of people you know well. Make it conscious. For the next week, pay attention to a close friend, partner, or family member. What does their body language look like when they are relaxed and happy? How does it shift when they become stressed or annoyed? Jot down your observations. This trains you to spot shifts from a baseline. 3. The one signal focus. Don't try to see everything at once. For one day, choose a single nonverbal channel to focus on. For example, today is feet day. Just notice where people are pointing their feet. Tomorrow can be voice day. Just listen to the pitch and pace of people's voices. This focused practice builds your observational skills without overwhelming you. The takeaway: seeing the full picture. The problem: we focus on the words being said and miss the more honest, silent conversation being broadcast through nonverbal cues. The core framework: don't use a simplistic body language dictionary. Instead, master the cluster and the shift. Look for groups of signals that tell a consistent story, and more importantly, notice when someone shifts from their normal baseline behavior. The 3 channels. Decode nonverbals by observing the body: expansive, confident, versus contractive, anxious postures. The face: genuine Duchenne smiles and red flag microexpressions like contempt. The voice: the pitch, pace, and volume that reveal the emotional subtext. The goal: combining deep listening, Chapter 3, with reading the nonverbal code gives you a 360-degree view of the other person. You can now hear what they say, feel what they feel, and see what they mean. You have completed the decode stage. Now it's time to build the bridge. Chapter 5. Align. Building the bridge of common ground. Ben felt the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. He was sitting in the worn leather visitor's chair of Harrison Hardware, a local institution run by the same family for 70 years. Across the desk sat its owner, Arthur Harrison, a man in his late 60s with hands like worn leather and a gaze that seemed to see right through Ben's brand new suit. Ben's company sold a state-of-the-art inventory management system. It was a beautiful piece of software, cloud-based, AI-driven, and guaranteed to optimize stock levels and boost profit margins. He launched into his well-practiced pitch. "Mr. Harrison," he began, opening his laptop, "our system uses predictive analytics to automate your ordering process. You'll see 15% reduction in overstock and at least 20% increase in inventory turnover. Our real-time dashboard gives you a complete operational overview accessible from anywhere in the world." He showed Mr. Harrison the slick interface, the colorful graphs, the glowing case studies from other clients. Mr. Harrison listened patiently, his face unreadable. When Ben finished, the old man leaned back in his squeaky chair and let out a long sigh. "That's a fancy piece of kit, son," he said, his voice gravelly. but my father and I built this store using ledger books and our gut. My inventory manager, Susan, has been with me for 30 years. She knows every nut and bolt in this place. What happens to her with your dashboard?" Ben was stumped. He stammered something about reskilling opportunities and transitioning to a new role, but the damage was done. He had walked in selling efficiency and technology. Mr. Harrison was in the business of loyalty and legacy. They weren't just on different pages, they were in different libraries. Ben left without a deal. The knot in his stomach now a lead weight. Ben's failure was not one of logic. It was a failure of alignment. You have now mastered the first stage of the D.A.R protocol, Decode. You know how to listen for the unspoken emotion and read the nonverbal truth. You are an expert intelligence gatherer, but intelligence is useless until you act on it. Align is that action. It is the deliberate process of using what you've decoded to build a bridge of trust and mutual understanding between your world and theirs. Most of us think of this as building rapport, but our idea of rapport is often tragically superficial. We talk about the weather, a local sports team, or the traffic. It's a flimsy conversational handshake that breaks the moment you get down to business. True alignment is not about shallow similarities. It's about finding and standing on deep, authentic common ground. It's the process of making the other person feel on a gut level that you are on their side, that you are one of them, that you get them. Ben never built that bridge to Mr. Harrison's world. He just shouted his message from across the canyon. The tribe in your brain, the similarity attraction effect. Why is building this bridge so critical? The answer lies in another one of our brain's ancient survival shortcuts, the similarity attraction effect. It's one of the most robust findings in social psychology. We are instinctively drawn to and more willing to trust people who we perceive as being similar to us. Our tribal ancestors needed this. When you encountered a stranger, your brain had to make a rapid calculation, friend or foe. One of the fastest ways to do that was to check for signs of sameness. Did they speak your dialect? Did they wear the same tribal markings? Did they worship the same gods? Similarity was a signal of in-group. It meant safety. It meant predictability. It meant trust. Difference signaled out-group, which meant potential danger and suspicion. While we no longer live in warring tribes, that ancient software is still running. When we meet someone new, our brain is still subconsciously scanning for commonalities. When it finds one, it releases a small hit of oxytocin, that trust hormone we met earlier. The defenses lower, the drawbridge comes down. The person isn't just a stranger anymore, they're a little bit like family. This is why alignment is the critical middle step. It takes all the intelligence you gathered in the decode phase and uses it to tell the other person's tribal brain, I am one of you. You are safe with me. The 3 levels of common ground. Finding common ground sounds easy, but to do it effectively, you need to understand that not all common ground is created equal. Imagine you're building that bridge. You can build it with different materials, some far stronger than others. There are 3 levels. Level 1. The surface, common interests. This is the most obvious and most common form of connection. It's discovering a shared hobby, a favorite TV show, a sports team, or a mutual acquaintance. You're a fan of the Chicago Cubs? Me too. You went to Ohio State? My cousin went there. This is the gravel and dirt for your bridge. It's useful for paving a smooth path for initial conversation. It's friendly and it breaks the ice. But it's not strong. A bridge built only on this material will wash away in the first storm of disagreement. Ben could have noticed a fishing trophy in Mr. Harrison's office and talked about fishing for 10 minutes, but it wouldn't have saved his pitch. Use this level, but don't rely on it. Level 2. The structure. Shared experiences. This is a far stronger material. Shared experiences go deeper than interests because they connect you through a shared emotion or struggle. It's not just that you both like running, it's that you both know the feeling of hitting the wall at mile 20 of a marathon. You started your own business from scratch? I know what those 80-hour weeks feel like. You're raising a teenager? I'm right there in the trenches with you. You also had to care for an aging parent? It's one of the hardest things in the world. Shared experiences create a powerful bond of empathy. They tell the other person, I don't just know about your world, I have lived in it. This is the steel framework of your bridge. It can withstand significant stress. Level 3, the bedrock, shared values. This is the deepest, most powerful, and most durable form of connection. It is the concrete foundation of your bridge, anchored directly into bedrock. You can have completely different interests and life experiences from someone, but if you connect on a shared core value, the bond is incredibly strong. Values are the principles that guide our lives. Things like integrity, family, creativity, security, community, loyalty, or growth. When you demonstrate that you share a value that is important to the other person, you are showing them that your internal compasses point in the same direction. This was the level Ben needed to reach. Mr. Harrison's rejection of the dashboard and his concern for his 30-year employee Susan wasn't about technology. It was about his core values of loyalty and legacy. He valued his people over profits and the continuity of his family's business over cold efficiency. The shared quest narrative. So how could Ben have done it? After decoding Mr. Harrison's world through deep listening and observation, he could have reframed his entire pitch. Instead of selling a product, he could have invited Mr. Harrison on a shared quest. A shared quest reframes the interaction from me versus you to us versus the problem. It positions you as an ally helping them achieve their valued goal. Ben, the aligned version. Mr. Harrison, I've heard you talk about Susan and the way your father ran this business. It's clear that the values of loyalty and legacy are the bedrock of this store. What I admire about that is it's something bigger than just selling hardware. The challenge, I imagine, is how to protect that legacy for the next 70 years in a world that's changing fast. Right there, Ben has built a bridge. He has found common ground on the bedrock of shared values, legacy, loyalty. Now he can introduce his technology not as a replacement, but as a tool to serve that value. Ben, the aligned version. Mr. Harrison, I've heard you talk about Susan and the way your father ran this business. It's clear that the values of loyalty and legacy are the bedrock of this store. What I admire about that is it's something bigger than just selling hardware. The challenge, I imagine, is how to protect that legacy for the next 70 years in a world that's changing fast. Right there, Ben has built a bridge. He has found common ground on the bedrock of shared values, legacy, loyalty. Now he can introduce his technology not as a replacement, but as a tool to serve that value. Ben, the aligned version. Mr. Harrison, I've heard you talk about Susan and the way your father ran this business. It's clear that the values of loyalty and legacy are the bedrock of this store. What I admire about that is it's something bigger than just selling hardware. The challenge, I imagine, is how to protect that legacy for the next 70 years in a world that's changing fast. Mr. Harrison, I believe technology should serve people, not replace them. What if we could use this system to take the tedious inventory work off Susan's plate, freeing her up to do what she does best, train your younger staff and share the wisdom she's gained over 30 years? This system isn't about changing your values. It's about protecting them for the next generation. Now, the software is no longer a threat. It's a tool for preserving a legacy. Ben is no longer a slick salesman. He is a trusted partner on a shared quest. This is the power of true alignment. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 5, Exercises. 1. The 3-level search. Think of one person you want to build a better connection with: a boss, a client, a family member. Before your next interaction, take 5 minutes and brainstorm potential common ground on all 3 levels. Interests. What do you know about their hobbies, tastes, or background? Experiences. What life challenges might you share, e.g., career changes, parenting, or moving to a new city? Values. Based on what you've heard them say, what do they seem to value most, like stability, innovation, family, or fairness? 2. The question shift. To uncover deeper common ground, you need to ask better questions. For 1 week, practice shifting from what questions to why or how questions that reveal experiences and values. Instead of what do you do, try what's the most interesting challenge in your line of work. Instead of where are you from, try what was it like growing up there. 3. Frame the quest. Take one of your current goals that involves another person, e.g., getting your team to adopt a new process, and reframe it as a shared quest. Fill in the blanks. My goal is your goal. Their goal or value is their goal or value. How can my goal help them achieve theirs? We are on a shared quest to the combined goal. The takeaway: from me to we. The problem: we try to connect on a superficial level, failing to build the deep trust needed for true influence. The core principle: the similarity attraction effect makes us instinctively trust people we see as part of our tribe. Alignment is the process of finding that commonality. The 3 levels of common ground. Surface, interests. Good for icebreaking, but weak. Structure, experiences. Stronger as it connects through shared emotion. Bedrock, the strongest possible connection, creating a bond of deep trust. The goal is to move beyond rapport to true alignment by building a bridge of common ground, ideally anchored in shared values. Reframe your interaction as a shared quest, transforming you from an outsider to a trusted ally. Chapter 6. Align, the power of strategic vulnerability. Chloe felt a thin layer of sweat on her palms as she surveyed the faces around the conference table. This was her first meeting as the newly appointed manager of the company's most successful and notoriously stubborn engineering team. She was 29. The average age of her direct reports was 45. The man sitting directly across from her, a senior engineer named Greg, had been writing code for the company since before she was in elementary school. She had a plan. She had spent the weekend memorizing their performance stats and preparing a detailed roadmap for the next quarter. She needed to establish her competence, to prove she deserved to be there. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice a little higher than she'd like. "I'm incredibly excited to be here. I've looked at your work, and I have some ideas for how we can streamline our development cycle to increase output by 15%. She launched into her presentation, clicking through slides filled with charts and process diagrams. The room was utterly silent. Greg leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest. Another engineer, Linda, was staring at the table, doodling on a notepad. Chloe felt their skepticism like a physical wall. She was talking, but every word seemed to bounce off it. She was trying to build a bridge of common ground based on a shared goal, success, but she was forgetting a crucial element. They didn't trust her yet. To them, she wasn't an outsider, she was an outsider with a clipboard. She finished her presentation to polite, non-committal silence. The meeting ended, and the team filed out, leaving Chloe with the distinct feeling that she had just spectacularly failed. What went wrong? Chloe had tried to align with them on competence, but in a room full of experts, that's a losing battle. She needed a different kind of bridge, built from a much more powerful material. What she needed was strategic vulnerability. If Chapter 5 was about building a bridge by finding what you have in common, this chapter is about building a bridge by revealing a piece of your own humanity. It is the most powerful trust accelerator in your arsenal and the master-level technique of the align stage. Strategic vulnerability is not weakness. It is not complaining, oversharing, or emotional dumping. It is the calculated, intentional act of exposing a small, authentic imperfection to signal trust, disarm defenses, and create an instant human connection. The beautiful mess effect. Your flaw, their courage. We live with a strange double standard when it comes to imperfection. Let's say you give a presentation and stumble over a few words. Your internal monologue is brutal. I'm such an idiot. I ruined it. Everyone thinks I'm a mess. Now, let's say you watch a colleague give a presentation. They are brilliant, but at one point they nervously admit, "Wow, I'm a little nervous speaking to such a smart group." What's your reaction? You don't think they're an idiot. You think, "Wow, that was so honest and relatable. What courage." This is the beautiful mess effect. We judge our own vulnerabilities harshly, but we perceive the vulnerabilities of others as an act of courage that makes them more relatable and trustworthy. This phenomenon is backed by a classic piece of research known as the pratfall effect. In the study, participants listened to a recording of a student competing in a quiz bowl. In one version, the student was brilliant and answered almost every question correctly. In another version, he did the same, but at the end of the recording, there was the sound of him clumsily spilling a cup of coffee all over himself, a pratfall. Which student did the participants find more likable? Overwhelmingly, it was the brilliant one who spilled the coffee. His small human blunder didn't make him seem less competent. It made him seem more approachable, more real. His perfection was admirable, but his imperfection was lovable. Strategic vulnerability is a deliberate pratfall. It's a signal to the other person's brain that says, "I am not a threat. I am not perfect. I am human, just like you." It short-circuits their judgment and invites them to lower their own shields in return. The SAFE method for vulnerability. So how do we do this without coming across as incompetent or unprofessional? You can't just walk into a meeting and announce your deepest insecurities. The key is to be strategic. To do it safely and effectively, your moment of vulnerability should follow a simple four-part framework. The SAFE method. S. Small. The vulnerability must be minor. This is not the time to talk about your crippling self-doubt or your marital problems. It's about sharing a small, relatable struggle or a past mistake. Bad. I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know if I can do this job. Good. I'm great with the big picture, but I'll admit, I sometimes get lost in the details of a complex spreadsheet. I'll be relying on your expertise there. A. Actionable, or past tense. The story should ideally be about a mistake from the past that you have already learned from. This demonstrates self-awareness and competence, not current ineptitude. If it is about a current struggle, it should be a small one you are actively working to improve. Bad. I'm terrible at managing my time. A current, unresolved state. Good. Early in my career, I was terrible at managing my time. I missed a deadline once, and it was a painful lesson. It's why I'm now so passionate about clear project timelines. F, for their benefit. The reason you're sharing this is to help the other person or the team, not simply to make yourself feel better. Frame it as an offering. Bad. I just need to vent about how stressful things are. I'm sharing this because I want everyone to feel safe admitting when they've made a mistake so we can fix it quickly without any blame. E. Ended. Your story must have a resolution or a clear lesson. This is the most important part. It transforms a story of failure into a story of growth. It shows you are not defined by your mistakes, but refined by them. Bad. I totally messed up that project. The end. Good. I totally messed up that project, and what I learned was that I need to involve the team in decisions much earlier in the process. Chloe's second chance. Imagine Chloe could go back and start that first meeting over, armed with the SAFE method. Chloe, the aligned version. Good morning, everyone. I'm truly honored to be leading this team. I know I'm new here, and I know I have a lot to learn from the expertise in this room. She pauses. Greg is still leaning back, arms crossed. She decides to deploy an SAFE story. I want to be upfront with you, she continues, her voice now calm and steady. On my first day at my last job, I was so eager to prove myself that I came in with a big plan to change a process, thinking I knew best. Small and past tense. It was a complete disaster because I hadn't taken the time to listen to the people who had been doing the work for years. It was a humbling but valuable lesson for me. Ended. I'm telling you this because I promise not to make that same mistake here. My only plan for this first month is to listen and learn from you, for their benefit. What happens in that room? The wall of skepticism cracks. Greg uncrosses his arms and leans forward slightly. Linda looks up from her notepad. Chloe is no longer a threat. She has admitted a flaw, shown that she has learned from it, and used it to signal her respect for them. She hasn't just built a bridge, she has invited them to help her design it. She has aligned herself not through forced competence, but through authentic humanity. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 6 Exercises. 1. The Mistake Resume. This is a private exercise. Take 15 minutes and list 3 mistakes you've made in your career or personal life. Next to each one, write down the most valuable lesson you learned from it. This exercise reframes your past failures as a library of wisdom and helps you identify powerful SAFE stories you can use in the future. 2. Prepare one SAFE story. Think of an upcoming interaction where building trust is important. Using the SAFE framework, prepare one small past tense story about a mistake or a lesson learned. You don't have to use it, but having it ready in your back pocket will give you the confidence to deploy it if the moment feels right. 3. Practice the 3 magic words. The easiest, lowest stakes way to practice vulnerability is by using the 3 magic words. I don't know. The next time you're in a conversation and you don't have the answer, resist the urge to bluff. Instead, say, "That's a great question. I don't know, but I will find out." It projects confidence, not weakness, because it shows you're secure enough to be honest. The takeaway, the trust accelerator. The problem, sometimes common ground isn't enough to break down walls of skepticism or overcome a power imbalance. Trying to prove your competence can backfire. The core principle, strategic vulnerability, grounded in the pratfall effect and the beautiful mess effect, shows you are human and disarms the defenses of others, accelerating trust. The technique, the SAFE method. To be vulnerable effectively, ensure your story is small, actionable or past tense, for their benefit, and ended with a clear lesson. The goal is to move beyond simply finding common ground to actively creating it. Strategic vulnerability is the final and most powerful tool in the align stage, turning you from an outsider into a deeply trusted partner. Chapter 7. Resonate. Framing, priming, and the narrative arc. Imagine you're the mayor of a city facing a deadly and unusual disease outbreak. Your top advisors present you with 2 possible programs to combat it. They give you the scientific projections. If Program A is adopted, 200 people will be saved. If program B is adopted, there is a 1/3 probability that 600 people will be saved and a 2/3 probability that no people will be saved. Which do you choose? If you're like most people, you choose program A. It's a sure thing. Saving 200 lives for certain feels better than taking a gamble. Now, imagine a different set of advisors comes in. They present the exact same situation with two different programs. If program C is adopted, 400 people will die. If program D is adopted, there is a 1/3 probability that nobody will die and a 2/3 probability that 600 people will die. Which do you choose now? If you're like most people, you choose program D. The certainty of 400 people dying is too horrible to accept, so you take the gamble. Here's the mind-bending part. Program A and Program C are identical. Program B and Program D are identical. Saving 200 out of 600 people is the same as 400 out of 600 people dying. But how the choice was presented, its frame, completely changed your decision. When the options were framed in terms of gains, lives saved, you became risk-averse. When they were framed in terms of losses, lives dying, you became a risk-taker. Welcome to the final stage of the D.A.R. protocol, resonate. You have done the hard work. You have decoded the other person's world, understanding their emotions and nonverbal cues. You have aligned with them, building a bridge of trust through common ground and strategic vulnerability. Now and only now are you ready to present your message. Resonate is the art and science of shaping your message so that it lands not just with logic, but with profound emotional and psychological impact. It's about ensuring your idea isn't just heard, but felt, embraced, and acted upon. It's not about changing the facts, it's about presenting them in the way the human brain is most likely to accept them. As the disease example shows, the context you put around an idea is often more important than the idea itself. This chapter will teach you 3 of the most powerful tools from behavioral science to make your message resonate: framing, priming, and the narrative arc. Resonate tool number 1, the power of the frame. A frame is a mental structure that shapes how we see the world. It's the lens through which we interpret facts. As we saw with the disease problem, a loss frame, 400 people will die, is often more powerful than a gain frame, 200 people will be saved. This is due to a cognitive bias called loss aversion. The pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. How can you use this ethically? Let's say you're trying to convince your team to adopt a new, more efficient software. Weak frame, gain. This new software will increase our team's productivity by 20%. This is nice, but not urgent. Strong frame, loss aversion. If we don't adopt this new software, we risk falling 20% behind our competitors every single quarter. We're losing ground every day we stick with the old system. This creates urgency and a powerful motivation to act. The frame you choose should be guided by your decode work. Did you discover that the person you're speaking with is motivated by a fear of losing control or by a desire to gain status? You must frame your message to align with their pre-existing worldview. To the person who values security, frame your idea around minimizing risk. To the person who values innovation, frame your idea around being first and gaining an edge. To the person who values community, frame your idea around how it will benefit the team. Framing isn't about manipulation, it's about translating. It's taking your brilliant idea and translating it into the language the other person's brain already speaks. Resonate tool number 2, the invisible influence, priming. In one fascinating experiment, researchers had people unscramble sentences. One group got sentences with words related to old age, for example, Florida, wrinkle, bingo. The other group got neutral words. After the experiment, the researchers secretly timed how long it took the participants to walk down the hallway to the elevator. The results were astonishing. The people who had been primed with words about old age walked significantly slower than the control group. The words they read without their conscious awareness had influenced their physical behavior. This is priming, the process by which exposure to one stimulus influences a response to a subsequent stimulus without conscious guidance or intention. Our minds are constantly being primed. If you see the color yellow and are then asked to name a fruit, you're more likely to say banana. If you walk into a meeting room that is messy and disorganized, you're primed to feel that the meeting itself will be unfocused. As a communicator, you can use priming to set the stage for your message. You prime the environment before you even start speaking. Verbal priming. Start a meeting by talking about a recent big success story before you have to deliver some tough feedback. You are priming the room with feelings of competence and resilience. Environmental priming. If you want to have a creative brainstorming session, don't hold it in a stuffy, formal boardroom. Hold it in a room with whiteboards, colorful markers, and comfortable chairs. You are priming the space for creativity. Question priming. Before asking for a big favor, you can ask a smaller related question that will likely get a yes. For example, before asking a colleague to help on a big project, you might first ask, "Do you think collaboration is key to our team's success?" When they say yes, they have been primed to be more collaborative. Priming is about being exquisitely intentional about the context. It's about warming up the soil before you plant the seed of your idea. Resonate tool number 3, the ultimate weapon, the narrative arc. Facts and data speak to our logical brain, but stories speak to our entire brain. They are the single most powerful technology for transferring an idea from one human mind to another. A story frames information, primes emotions, and gives meaning to data all at once. We are wired for narrative. From ancient myths around a campfire to the latest binge-worthy TV series, our minds crave a clear beginning, a compelling middle, and a satisfying end. When you present your idea as a story, it becomes memorable, emotionally engaging, and easy to retell. Every effective persuasive narrative has a simple three-part structure. The flawed present, the beginning. Start by describing the world as it is, highlighting a problem, a tension, or a challenge. This is the before picture. It's the world where your audience lives. For years, our team has been struggling with communication silos. We're doing great work, but no one knows what anyone else is doing. The turning point, the middle. This is where you introduce your idea, your product, or your plan. It's not just a solution, it's the catalyst for change. It's the key that unlocks a better future. But what if there were a way for us to share our progress effortlessly, a central hub that made our collective work visible to everyone in real time? The better future. Paint a vivid, compelling picture of the world after your idea has been adopted. This is the after picture. It's not about features, it's about feelings and benefits. Imagine coming to work on Monday and knowing exactly where every project stands. Imagine an end to redundant work. Imagine a culture where we are all celebrating each other's wins because we can finally see them. That is what this new platform can do for us. This simple arc transforms a boring proposal into an inspiring journey. It takes the listener from a problem they recognize to a future they desire, with your idea as the bridge to get them there. It's the ultimate resonance tool. Mind Hack in Action, Chapter 7 Exercises. 1. The frame flip. Take an idea you need to persuade someone of. Write it down as a gain frame, that is, if we do this, we will gain X. Now flip it and write it as a loss frame, that is, if we don't do this, we will lose Y. Which one feels more powerful and urgent? Practice choosing your frame intentionally. 2. The prime audit. Before your next important conversation, take 2 minutes to audit the context. What is the emotional tone you want to set? What can you do or say right at the beginning to prime that feeling? It could be as simple as bringing coffee or starting with a piece of genuine praise. 3. The 3-act story builder. Take a boring piece of information you need to convey, example, the features of a new software, the points of a new policy. Structure it as a 3-act narrative. Act 1, the flawed present. What is the problem or struggle this information solves? Act 2, the turning point. Introduce your key piece of information as the solution. Act 3, the better future. Describe the positive outcome once the information is adopted. The takeaway, from being heard to being felt. The problem, a brilliant idea presented poorly will fail. The way you present a message is as important as the message itself. The core principle, to resonate, you must craft your message to work with the brain's natural biases and preferences, not against them. The 3 tools of resonance. Framing. Use loss aversion and other frames to present your idea in the most psychologically compelling way. Priming. Intentionally set the emotional and environmental context to make your audience more receptive to your message before you even deliver it. The narrative arc. Wrap your data and facts in a simple story, flawed present to turning point to better future, to make your idea memorable, engaging, and persuasive. The goal. You have decoded your audience and aligned with them. Now, by mastering resonance, you can deliver your message in a way that doesn't just convince their minds, but also captures their hearts. Chapter 8. Resonate, the science of charisma. Picture 2 leaders giving a speech. The first leader, Daniel, is brilliant. He stands behind a lectern, hands gripping the sides. His speech is perfectly written, filled with insightful analysis and a clear, logical plan. He reads his script word for word, his eyes scanning the page. He is professional, informative, and utterly forgettable. When he finishes, the audience claps politely. They heard his information. The second leader, Anna, walks to the center of the stage, leaving the lectern behind. She makes eye contact with people in the crowd, pausing for a moment before she even begins to speak. When she does, her voice is full of energy. She uses her hands to emphasize her points, not in wild gestures, but with purpose. She tells a short, compelling story that makes the audience laugh. She shares a statistic that makes them lean forward. She doesn't just deliver a speech, she creates an experience. When she finishes, the room erupts in thunderous applause. They didn't just hear her information, they felt her conviction. What did Anna have that Daniel didn't? The answer is a word that feels both magical and maddeningly out of reach for most of us: charisma. We tend to think of charisma as an innate gift, a form of personal magnetism you're either born with or you're not. It's the mysterious it factor of presidents, rock stars, and natural-born leaders. But this is a myth. For decades, researchers have been deconstructing charisma, and what they've found is revolutionary. Charisma is not a personality trait. It is a set of learnable behaviors. It is the final and most personal tool of the resonate stage. While the last chapter was about crafting your message, this chapter is about mastering the instrument that delivers it, you. Once you've framed your message and wrapped it in a narrative, your own presence is what gives it life. It's the spark that ignites the fuel you've so carefully arranged. Drawing from the work of researchers like Olivia Fox-Caban, author of The Charisma Myth, we can break down this seemingly magical quality into 3 core practical components. Think of them as the 3 legs of the charisma stool. If you have all 3, you are stable, powerful, and captivating. Presence, power, warmth. Mastering the interplay of these 3 behaviors is the final step to ensuring your message doesn't just land, but truly resonates. Charisma component number 1, presence. Presence is the foundation of charisma. It is the quality of being completely in the moment, giving the person or people you are with your full, undivided attention. In a world of constant distraction, of smartphones buzzing in our pockets and 1,000 thoughts pinging in our minds, true presence is a rare and powerful gift. When you give someone your full presence, you are non-verbally communicating, of all the things I could be doing right now, I am choosing to be here with you. You are what's important. Think back to your own experiences. Have you ever talked to someone while they subtly checked their phone or scanned the room over your shoulder? How did it make you feel? Dismissed, unimportant. Now, think of a time someone listened to you so intently it felt like you were the only person in the world. How did that feel? Captivating. Presence is not a complex skill, but it requires fierce discipline. The biggest obstacle to presence is your own mind, which is constantly trying to pull you into the past, ruminating on a mistake, or the future, planning your response. How to practice presence? The simplest and most powerful technique is to bring your awareness back to your physical sensations. Just for a few seconds, focus entirely on the feeling of your feet on the floor, or pay attention to the physical sensations of your breath moving in and out of your body. This simple act yanks your brain out of its wandering thoughts and anchors it firmly in the here and now. Do this for 3 seconds before you walk into a meeting or answer a phone call. That's all it takes to switch from autopilot to being fully present. Charisma component number 2, power. Power in the context of charisma isn't about authority or dominance. It is the perception that you have the ability to affect the world around you. It's a quiet confidence projected through body language, vocal tone, and expertise. People are drawn to those who project power because it makes them feel that they are in capable hands. Power signals competence and credibility. Daniel, our first speaker, had intellectual power, a great script, but he failed to project personal power. His hiding behind the lectern, his lack of eye contact, these were contractive, low-power behaviors. Anna, on the other hand, projected power by taking up space, by commanding the stage, and by speaking with a strong, resonant voice. How to practice power? Body language. Stand or sit with an expansive posture. Keep your shoulders back, your head held high, and avoid fidgeting. When speaking, use deliberate, purposeful gestures. Vocal tone. Speak from your diaphragm, not your throat. At the end of a statement, let your intonation go down slightly. This signals confidence, whereas letting your voice go up talk, signals uncertainty. The power of the pause. Confident people are not afraid of silence. Before answering a complex question, take a 2-second pause. It signals that you are thoughtful and considering your response carefully, rather than nervously blurting out the first thing that comes to mind. It non-verbally says, "I own this moment." Charisma component number 3, warmth. Warmth without power is intimidating. It's the arrogant boss or the aloof expert. Warmth is the ingredient that makes your power inviting instead of threatening. It is the projection of goodwill, empathy, and kindness. Warmth signals that you are not just capable, but that you have the other person's best interests at heart. It's what makes people feel safe and connected to you. Anna showed warmth through her genuine smile, her eye contact that connected with individuals, and her use of humor. She didn't just broadcast her power, she shared her humanity. This is the critical combination. How to practice warmth. The Duchenne smile. As we learned in Chapter 4, a genuine smile that reaches your eyes is a universal signal of warmth. Before you enter a room, think of something that genuinely makes you happy. Let that feeling show on your face. Empathetic listening. All the deep listening skills you learned in Chapter 3 are active demonstrations of warmth. When you label someone's emotion, it sounds like that was incredibly frustrating. You are radiating warmth and empathy. Find something to like. Before interacting with someone, consciously try to find one thing you genuinely like or admire about them. It could be their work ethic, their sense of humor, or even their cool glasses. This small mental shift changes your entire demeanor toward them, making you project authentic warmth. The magic is in the mix. Charisma isn't about maximizing all 3 components at once. It's about skillfully dialing them up or down depending on the situation. Delivering difficult feedback, dial up warmth to show you care, but maintain power to show you are serious and be fully present to their reaction. Rallying a team around a bold new vision, dial up power and lead with energy and conviction using warmth to make the vision feel inclusive. Consoling a friend, dial down power almost completely, and maximize presence and warmth. Charisma is the final layer of polish on the D.A.R protocol. Your ability to decode and align gives you the insight to know which combination of presence, power, and warmth will be most effective. And when you deliver your carefully framed, narrative-driven message with this calibrated charisma, it becomes nearly irresistible. It resonates. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 8 Exercises. 1. The Presence Check-in. Set a silent alarm on your phone or watch for 3 random times a day. When it goes off, do a 5-second check-in. Stop what you're doing and just notice. 1. The feeling of your feet on the floor. 2. The sensation of one full breath. This micro-meditation costs nothing and takes seconds, but it builds your presence muscle over time. 2. The power pose. Before your next important call or meeting, find a private space, even a bathroom stall works, and for 1 minute, stand in a power pose. A classic one is the Wonder Woman. Feet apart, hands on hips, chin up. Research by social psychologist Amy Cuddy shows that adopting expansive postures can actually change your body chemistry, increasing feelings of confidence and reducing stress. 3. The warmth mirror. This is a 30-second exercise. Stand in front of a mirror and think of a happy memory or something you're grateful for. Watch your face as a genuine Duchenne smile appears. Notice how it feels in your facial muscles. Then practice turning that smile on and off. The goal is to be able to access that feeling and that facial expression more intentionally. The takeaway: becoming the message. The problem: we believe charisma is a magical innate quality, leaving us feeling that powerful presence is out of our reach. The core principle: charisma is not a gift, it's a learnable skill composed of a specific set of behaviors. You don't have to be born with it, you can build it. The 3 components. True charisma is the skillful blend of presence, being fully in the moment; power, projecting confidence and competence; warmth, projecting empathy and goodwill. The goal is to become a masterful conductor of your own presence. By learning to dial presence, power, and warmth up or down, you can ensure that you don't just deliver your message, you become the message, making your ideas resonate with unforgettable impact. Chapter 9. The D.A.R Protocol in High-Stakes Conversations. Theory is one thing, the real world is another. So far, we have built the D.A.R protocol piece by piece, from the internal work of hacking your own mind to the external skills of charismatic presence. But the true test of any framework is its performance under pressure. Can it hold up when the stakes are high, when your palms are sweating, and when the outcome truly matters? This chapter is your real-world simulator. We're going to move beyond individual skills and put the entire D.A.R protocol, Decode, Align, Resonate, into action. We will walk through 3 common, high-stakes scenarios that cause immense anxiety for most people: asking for a raise, nailing a job interview, and resolving a major conflict with a loved one. For each scenario, we'll look at the typical ineffective approach. Then, we'll apply the D.A.R protocol layer by layer, providing a step-by-step playbook you can adapt for your own life. This is where the magic happens, where abstract concepts become concrete results. High-stakes scenario number 1, asking for a raise. Your annual review is next week. You've worked incredibly hard, taken on extra projects, and you know you're underpaid compared to the market rate. You deserve a raise. The ineffective approach. You walk into your boss's office armed with a list of your accomplishments and a number you want. You spend 20 minutes listing everything you've done, concluding with, "And that's why I believe I deserve a 15% raise." Your boss, who has been listening passively, says the dreaded words, You've done great work, but the budget is tight this year. It's just not possible right now. You leave feeling defeated and undervalued. This approach fails because it's entirely about you. It's a monologue, not a conversation. Let's apply the D.A.R protocol. The D.A.R protocol playbook, the raise. Step 1, decode, the reconnaissance phase. Your goal is not to prepare your speech, it's to understand your boss's world. Deep listening. For weeks leading up to the meeting, pay close attention. What is the biggest stressor on your boss's plate? Is it pressure from their own boss to cut costs? Is it the struggle to retain top talent? Is it a key project that's falling behind? Listen for the music behind their words in team meetings. Nonverbal code. Watch their body language when people talk about budgets versus when they talk about innovation or team wins. Where's the tension? Where's the excitement? The intelligence. Let's say you decode that your boss, a manager named Olivia, is under immense pressure to increase team efficiency and is terrified of losing her best people to competitors. Her primary values are stability and performance. Step 2. Align. Building the shared quest. Your goal is to frame this conversation as us versus the problem, not me versus you. Find common ground. You and Olivia share a common value, the performance and success of the team. That's your bedrock. Strategic vulnerability. You don't need a big story, just a small admission that shows you see things from her perspective. The opening. You walk into her office and say, "Olivia, thank you for this time. I know how much pressure we're under to improve efficiency and keep our best people. I've been thinking a lot about my role in that and how I can best contribute to those goals moving forward." Analysis. You've immediately aligned with her decoded needs. This isn't about your needs, it's about her problems. You are now a partner in solving them. Step 3. Resonate, making your case irresistible. Your goal is to present your value in the language she understands. Frame it. You're going to frame your raise not as a reward for past work, but as an investment in future solutions to her problems. Narrative arc. Flawed present. I know one of our challenges has been the time we lose on manual reporting. It's a drain on my time and the team's. The turning point. Over the last quarter, I took the initiative to build an automated reporting system on my own time. It's already saving us about 5 hours a week. You slide over a one-page summary. Better future. I want to keep doing this kind of work, to find more of these efficiencies that will make our whole team more valuable. To do that, I'd like to discuss bringing my compensation in line with the value I'm committed to creating. Specifically, I'm proposing an adjustment to your number. Analysis. You haven't just asked for money. You've presented a problem, shown you've already solved a piece of it, and framed your raise as the fuel that will allow you to solve even bigger pieces. You've made it harder to say no because saying no is now linked to turning down future value. High-stakes scenario number 2, the job interview. You're up for your dream job. The interviewer, a hiring manager named Mr. Evans, is known to be tough and analytical. The ineffective approach. Mr. Evans asks, "Tell me about your weaknesses." You give the canned, phony answer, "I'm a perfectionist," or "I work too hard." He then asks how you handle pressure, and you give a generic story about a past project. You are a walking, talking resume. You are competent, but not compelling. The D.A.R protocol playbook, the interview. Step 1, decode, reading the room. Deep listening. Listen to the exact words he uses in his questions. Is he focused on risk, data, or teamwork? His vocabulary reveals his values. Nonverbal code. Is he leaning forward, engaged, or back, skeptical? Is he taking notes, interested, or glancing at the clock, bored? Pay attention to what makes him lean forward. That's the topic he truly cares about. The intelligence. You decode that Mr. Evans is highly data-driven, risk-averse, and cares deeply about seeing a measurable return on investment for any new hire. Step 2. Align, becoming the solution. Find common ground, values. You both want the same thing, for the person in this role to deliver measurable, low-risk results. Strategic vulnerability, the SAFE method. The weakness question is a perfect opportunity. The answer. Mr. Evans asks, "What's your greatest weakness?" You respond, Early in my career, I used to be over-optimistic about project timelines. I was so focused on the creative side that I'd sometimes underestimate the logistical details, small, past tense. I learned a tough lesson on the Apex project, where my optimism led to a stressful last-minute rush. It taught me that creativity is useless without rigorous, data-driven planning. It's why I am now obsessed with using project management software to track metrics and build in buffers, ended for their benefit. Analysis. You've turned a weakness into a story of growth that perfectly aligns with his decoded value of being data-driven and risk-averse. You've demonstrated self-awareness and competence. Step 3. Resonate, telling the right story. Frame it. Frame your entire experience not as a list of job duties, but as a series of problems you have solved for past employers. Narrative arc. When he asks, "Tell me about a time you handled pressure," don't just tell a story. Tell a story with a clear financial or measurable outcome. Flawed present. At my last company, we were facing a potential $50,000 loss on a project due to an unexpected vendor delay. Turning point. Instead of panicking, I created a new workflow, renegotiated with a backup vendor, and worked with the team to reprioritize tasks. Better future. As a result, we not only delivered the project on time, but my new workflow actually saved us an additional $10,000. I have the report on that if you'd like to see it. Analysis. You are no longer just a candidate. You are a problem solver who delivers a return on investment. You are speaking his language. High-stakes scenario number 3. Resolving conflict with a loved one. You and Alex have been having the same fight over and over about keeping the house tidy. It always ends in slammed doors and hurt feelings. The ineffective approach. You see Alex's shoes in the middle of the floor again. You sigh loudly. "How many times do I have to ask you to put your shoes away? It's not that hard. I feel like I'm the only one who cares about this house." Alex gets defensive and the fight begins. The D.A.R protocol playbook. The conflict. Step 1. Decode, finding the real story. This is the most important step in a conflict. The fight is never about the shoes. Deep listening. What is the music behind Alex's defensiveness? Is it a feeling of being controlled, of not being good enough, of being exhausted after work? Label the emotion. You must start by befriending the bouncer. Instead of attacking, observe and label. "Honey, I see your shoes are here. It seems like you're really tired when you get home from work." The intelligence. After a calmer conversation, you decode that Alex feels like they're constantly being judged and that the home feels more like a place of rules than a place of rest. The core issue isn't messiness, it's about feeling unconditionally accepted. Step 2. Align, getting on the same team. Find common ground, values. You both want the same thing, a home that feels peaceful and comfortable for both of you. This is your shared quest. Strategic vulnerability. This is your turn to own your part. The bridge. You say, "I think I've been so focused on how the mess makes me feel stressed that I haven't thought about how my nagging makes you feel judged. I'm sorry. My goal isn't to control you. It's for our home to be a relaxing place for both of us. Can we work together on that?" Analysis. You have completely disarmed the conflict by taking responsibility and reframing the goal as a shared one. The drawbridge is down. Step 3. Resonate. Co-creating the solution. Frame it. Frame the solution-finding process as a collaborative brainstorm, not a list of your demands. Narrative arc. The co-created story. Flawed present. Okay, so the current system isn't working. It leaves me feeling anxious and you feeling judged. That's a bad story for us. Turning point. What if we could create a new system together? What would make it easier for you to put things away when you come in the door? What's one small change that would make a big difference for me? Better future. Let's just try one thing. What if we put a basket right by the door just for your shoes? You can just kick them off into the basket. No more nagging from me, and the shoes are off the floor. We can try that for a week and see if our home feels a little more peaceful. Analysis. You have moved from a conflict about shoes to a collaborative project about creating a peaceful home. The solution is small, specific, and co-created, making Alex a willing participant instead of a defiant adversary. These playbooks are not scripts. They are roadmaps. The specific words will change, but the process remains the same. In any high-stakes conversation, resist the urge to lead with your agenda. Start by understanding their world. Build a bridge of genuine alignment, and only then craft your message to resonate with who they are. This is how you turn confrontation into connection and persuasion into partnership. Chapter 10. Hacking the Digital Connection. The D.A.R. Protocol Online. Dr. Lena Petrova, a brilliant climate scientist, was crafting what she felt was the most important email of her career. She was writing to Dr. Alan Carmichael, a leading figure in her field, whose public support could be transformative for her new research project. She spent hours composing the message. It was a masterpiece of data and logic. She detailed her methodology, cited her sources, and clearly articulated the profound implications of her findings. She proofread it 3 times for typos and hit send, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and anxiety. The reply came 2 days later. It was 1 sentence long. Dr. Petrova, thank you for the information, but this is not my area of focus at this time. Lena was crushed. How could he dismiss it so quickly? The logic was flawless. The data was undeniable. It was a perfect email, but it wasn't. It was a perfect document, but a terrible connection. Dr. Petrova had forgotten a critical rule of modern life. The screen is not a neutral container for information. It is a filter that strips away 90% of our humanity. When we communicate face-to-face, we have the full orchestra of human connection at our disposal: body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, shared space. Online, whether in an email, a text message, a Slack channel, or a Zoom call, that orchestra is reduced to a single tinny instrument. Nuance disappears, empathy erodes, misunderstanding thrives. Applying the D.A.R. protocol in this digital landscape isn't just a good idea, it's an act of survival. If you want to connect, persuade, and lead effectively today, you must learn to hack the digital connection. You must learn to intentionally re-inject the humanity that the screen strips away. This chapter will show you how to adapt each stage of the protocol for the digital world. Decode. Reading the digital ghost. In person, you can see a crossed arm or hear a sigh. Online, you have to look for the digital equivalent. You are decoding a digital ghost, the faint traces of personality and emotion left behind in the text. Listen to the vocabulary. Words are your primary clues. Does the person use formal language like sincerely, best regards, or casual language like cheers, talk soon? Do they use data and facts or emotional, story-based language? Do they use emojis and exclamation points or just cold, hard text? Their word choice is a direct window into their values and communication style. Match it to build alignment. Pay attention to pacing. The response time is a powerful nonverbal cue. A quick reply often signals engagement and priority. A slow reply can signal disinterest or that the person is overwhelmed. A sudden change in their response time is a digital shift you should pay attention to. Read the structure. Look at the formatting. Are their emails short, bullet-pointed and to the point, or are they long narrative paragraphs? A person who writes in bullet points values efficiency and clarity. A person who writes in paragraphs may value context and relationship building. To connect, you must deliver your message in the structure they prefer. Let's re-examine Dr. Petrova's failure. A quick look at Dr. Carmichael's public blog would have revealed that he writes in short, punchy posts, often tells personal stories, and expresses deep concern about mentoring the next generation of scientists. Dr. Petrova's dense, data-heavy email completely missed these clues. She didn't decode his digital ghost. Align, building the bridge through the screen. Once you've decoded the digital ghost, you can build a bridge. But since you can't rely on a warm smile or a firm handshake, you must be far more deliberate. Find digital common ground. Before a first-time email, do a 60-second search. Did they recently post something interesting on LinkedIn? Did their company win an award? Did you see they support a certain charity? Starting your message with a genuine, specific point of connection is the digital equivalent of finding a shared interest at a party. Ineffective. Dear Dr. Carmichael, my name is Lenata Petrova. Effective. Dear Dr. Carmichael, I was so inspired by your recent blog post on mentoring the next generation of scientists. It's a passion I share, which is what compelled me to reach out about my own research. Use strategic vulnerability, digital edition. Admitting a small human imperfection is even more powerful online because it instantly shatters the cold, robotic feel of digital text. In a team Slack channel, "Heads up team, I'm running about 5 minutes behind this morning. My dog decided my shoes were a chew toy. Be right there." This is far more connecting than silence. In an email, "Apologies for the slight delay in my reply. I've been deep in the weeds on the Q3 report and admit my inbox got a little out of control." This is human and relatable. Inject warmth intentionally. Text on a screen is perceived as more negative than the sender intended. This is the negativity bias of online communication. You must actively fight it by injecting warmth. The right punctuation. An exclamation point can be your friend. Thanks feels cold and dismissive. Thanks feels warm and appreciative. The power of GIFs and emojis in the right context. In less formal internal communications, a well-chosen GIF or emoji can convey more emotional nuance than a paragraph of text. They are a crucial tool for restoring the nonverbal cues the screen removes. Resonate, crafting the unignorable message. Attention is the currency of the digital world. To make your message resonate, you must design it to be clear, compelling, and respectful of the reader's time. The subject line is the frame. The subject line is the most important part of any email. It frames the entire interaction and determines whether your message is opened or deleted. It must be clear, concise, and offer value. Bad subject, question or following up. Good subject, question re Q3 marketing budget, or following up, action items from our 10/26 call. The first sentence is the hook. Assume the person is reading your email on a phone while waiting in line for coffee. You have one sentence to hook them. Don't waste it with, "I hope this email finds you well." Get straight to the point. State your purpose or your key takeaway in the very first line. Designed for skimming, the narrative arc for a digital world. No one reads long blocks of text online. They skim. You must structure your message to guide their eye. Flawed present. Use a bolded first sentence to state the problem. Right now our team is missing deadlines because we have no central project dashboard. Turning point. Use bullet points or numbered lists for key information or actions. I propose we trial a new software with 3 key features. 1. Shared calendar. 2. Task assignment. 3. Progress tracking. Better future, and with a clear, single call to action. Would you be open to a 15-minute demo this Friday? The special case, the video call. Video calls are a strange hybrid, offering more cues than email but fewer than real life. All the D.A.R principles apply, but with a few special rules. Decode. You must look at the camera, not the screen, to simulate eye contact. Notice the digital shifts. Does someone suddenly turn off their camera or start typing furiously? That's a cue. Align. Presence is paramount. Close all other tabs. The temptation to multitask is huge, but people can feel when you're not fully there. Giving someone your full presence on a video call is a massive act of respect. Resonate. You need to be slightly more energetic than you would be in person to overcome the flattening effect of the screen. Use your hands, vary your vocal tone, and smile. You are performing, just a little bit, to re-inject the lost energy. Hacking the digital connection is not about becoming a different person online. It's about becoming a more intentional one. It's about understanding the limitations of the medium and deliberately working to overcome them. The person who can build trust, convey warmth, and create clarity through a screen has a superpower in the modern world. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 10. Exercises. 1. The Digital Ghost Audit. Before you reply to an important email, take 30 seconds to audit the sender's original message. What is their communication style? Formal, casual, data, story, short, long? Now adjust the first 2 sentences of your reply to better match their style. The warmth injector? Go through the last 5 emails or professional messages you sent. Read them aloud. How many of them suffer from the negativity bias? Could you have added a warmer opening, a more appreciative closing, or a simple exclamation point to improve the tone without sacrificing professionalism? The Skim Test Redesign. Find a recent email you sent that was longer than 5 sentences. Redesign it using the Design for Skimming principles. Bold the key takeaway in the first sentence. Break up any long paragraph into bullet points, and ensure there is a single, clear call to action at the end. The takeaway: re-injecting the humanity. The problem: digital communication strips away the nonverbal cues that build trust and understanding, leading to a massive loss of human connection. Decode online. Learn to read the digital ghost by analyzing vocabulary, response time, and message structure to understand the person behind the screen. Align online. Fight the negativity bias by intentionally injecting warmth, finding digital common ground, and using punctuation and other tools to convey emotion. Resonate online. Design your message for the medium. Use a powerful subject line. Hook them in the first sentence and structure your message for skimming so your core idea can't be missed. The goal? To move from being a simple user of digital tools to a master of digital connection, capable of building trust and influence through any screen. Chapter 11. Leading with Connection. The Mind Hacker as a Leader. It was David's first big test as a new manager. His team had just missed a critical deadline on the Odyssey project, and his director was furious. David knew he needed to address the team, to light a fire under them and make sure this never happened again. He called an emergency meeting. He stood at the head of the conference table, his jaw tight. "I don't know what happened here, people," he began, his voice tense with frustration. "The numbers were clear. The timeline was clear. We failed. This reflects badly on me, and it reflects badly on all of you. Starting tomorrow, I want daily progress reports from every single one of you, no exceptions. We have to get this back on track." He looked around the room expecting to see a new sense of determination. Instead, he saw a sea of blank faces. People stared at their notebooks, a few nodded grimly. The energy in the room was a mixture of fear and resentment. The team got the message, but they were not inspired. They were demoralized. David had asserted his authority, but he had failed as a leader. Leadership is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in the modern workplace. We often confuse it with rank, authority, or the ability to give orders. But true leadership has nothing to do with your title on an organizational chart. Leadership is the art of making others want to journey with you toward a better future. It is not an act of command. It is an act of connection. The traditional model of leadership is one of command and control. It's about having the right answers, giving clear directions, and holding people accountable. David was operating from this playbook. But the 21st century leader, the one who can inspire innovation, retain top talent, and navigate constant change, operates from a different model: connection and inspiration. This is the ultimate application of the D.A.R protocol. A mind hacker, as a leader, uses this framework not just to persuade in a single conversation, but to build a thriving, resilient, and highly motivated culture. Whether you are a CEO, a project manager, a coach, or a parent, these principles will transform how you guide and influence others. Decode. The leader as an anthropologist. A command and control leader sees their team as a set of resources to be managed. A connection and inspiration leader sees their team as a collection of individual humans to be understood. Your first job as a leader is not to talk, but to become a cultural anthropologist. Go beyond the "how are you?" Don't just ask about the status of a project. Ask about the experience of the project. Use the mining questions from Chapter 3. What's the most frustrating part of this process for you? What's one thing that would make your job easier? What part of this work are you most proud of? These questions decode the hidden friction and motivation within your team. Decode the team's nonverbal culture. Is your team's digital communication channel full of jokes and gifs, a sign of psychological safety, or just terse, formal announcements, a sign of fear? In meetings, do people lean in and debate ideas, or do they stay silent until the highest paid person has spoken? These are powerful indicators of your team's true health. If David had been decoding his team, he might have discovered the real reason for the missed deadline. It wasn't laziness. Perhaps it was a hidden dependency on another team, or a crippling fear of asking for help because the culture punished mistakes. His entire approach would have changed. Align. The leader as a shield. Once you understand your team's world, your next job is to align with them by creating a bubble of trust and safety. In the connection and inspiration model, the leader's job is to act as a shield, protecting the team from external pressures and internal fears so they can do their best work. Absorb the pressure, don't pass it down. When David's director got angry, David's first instinct was to pass that pressure directly on to his team. It was a failure of alignment. A great leader acts as a buffer. They absorb the heat from above and then present the challenge to the team calmly and rationally. They say, "The director is concerned about the deadline. Let's work together on a plan to get this right." Public praise, private feedback. This is a golden rule of alignment. Celebrate wins, even small ones, publicly. This builds a culture of recognition and success. But when you need to give corrective feedback, always do it in private. Public criticism destroys psychological safety and turns team members against each other. The leader goes first, strategic vulnerability. The fastest way to build a culture of trust is to demonstrate it yourself. Be the first to admit a mistake. Be the first to say, "I don't know, but let's find out together." When David stood before his team, imagine if he had started with, "I feel like I let you guys down. As your leader, I should have seen this coming. Let's figure out what I missed so we can fix this." That single act of vulnerability would have transformed the entire conversation from a prosecution into a post-mortem. Resonate. The leader as a storyteller. A command and control leader gives orders. A connection and inspiration leader tells a story. They understand that their most important job is to give the team's work meaning. They use the tools of resonance not just to win an argument, but to build a shared identity and a compelling vision of the future. Frame the why, not just the what. Don't just tell your team what to do. Tell them why it matters. Frame their tasks within the larger narrative of the company's mission. Command and control. I need you to finish coding the login module by Friday. Connection and inspiration. The login module you're building is the front door for our entire product. Every single one of our customers will touch what you're creating this week. Let's make that first impression a great one. Translate strategy into a shared quest narrative. A company's strategy is often a dense, boring document. A leader's job is to translate it into a compelling shared quest narrative. Flawed present, our market share is declining. Turning point, This is why we're launching the Odyssey Project. It's our chance to reinvent how our customers see us. Better future. Imagine 6 months from now, reading an article that calls us the most innovative company in our industry. That's what we're building starting today, and you are at the heart of it. Master the charisma of leadership. Your presence sets the emotional tone for the entire team. A stressed, frantic leader creates a stressed, frantic team. A calm, confident, and warm leader creates a calm, confident, and engaged team. Your daily demonstration of presence, power, and warmth is not a soft skill. It is a core leadership competency. Leadership is the ultimate expression of the D.A.R protocol because it is a continuous loop. You are constantly decoding the needs of your team, aligning with them by creating safety, and resonating with a story that gives their work meaning. You are not just managing tasks, you are nurturing potential. You are not just building a product, you are building people. This is the future of leadership, and it is a skill that anyone, regardless of title, can learn. Mind Hack in Action. Chapter 11, Exercises. 1. The state of the team, Decode. Schedule a short 15-minute one-on-one with each member of your team or family. Your only agenda is to ask 3 questions. What part of your work is most exciting to you right now? What is the biggest roadblock or frustration you're facing? And what's one thing I could do to be a more supportive leader, partner, or parent for you? Listen. Don't solve. Just decode. 2. The shield audit. The next time you feel pressure from above or outside, stop before you communicate it to your team or family. Ask yourself, how can I absorb the emotional pressure of this situation and present only the practical challenge to my team? This simple pause is the key to becoming a protective shield. 3. Find the why. Take one routine, boring task that you or your team has to do. Spend 5 minutes reframing it. Connect that small what to a bigger why. How does this task ultimately help a customer, support the company's mission, or uphold a family value? Practice delivering this new inspiring frame. The takeaway from boss to leader. The problem: we mistake authority and command and control tactics for true leadership, resulting in demoralized and uninspired teams. The shift: modern leadership is not about command and control, but connection and inspiration. It is the practice of making others want to follow you. Leadership through the D.A.R. Protocol Decode. Be an anthropologist who seeks to deeply understand the needs, fears, and motivations of each individual. Align. Be a shield who creates psychological safety, absorbs pressure, and builds trust through strategic vulnerability. Resonate. Be a storyteller who frames the why behind the what, giving meaning to work and inspiring action through a compelling vision. The goal is to transform from a manager of tasks into a leader of people, capable of building a culture of trust and high performance, one connection at a time. Conclusion: the practice of lifelong connection. In the introduction to this book, we met Michael. He was standing on a busy city street, the cold air of a boardroom still clinging to him, utterly defeated. He had a perfect proposal, flawless data, and a brilliant solution for the Apex project. But he failed. He failed because he fell into the connection gap, the vast chasm between the logic of our message and the heart of our audience. He knew how to build a case, but he didn't know how to build a bridge. Over the past 11 chapters, we have systematically laid out the architectural plans for that bridge. We have given you a blueprint, a powerful and repeatable framework for closing the connection gap in any area of your life. The D.A.R. protocol, Decode, Align, Resonate, is not a collection of tips or tricks. It is a new way of seeing and operating in the world. We began by handing you the operator's manual for your own mind, learning to spot the cognitive glitches that keep us from seeing others clearly. We dismantled the authenticity paradox, discovering that true influence is not a performance, but a reflection of our genuine self. Then we dove into the protocol. We learned to decode, moving beyond surface-level listening to hear the unspoken emotions and read the silent, honest language of the body. We became intelligence gatherers of the human heart. Next, we learned to align. We discovered how to build a bridge of trust by finding common ground on the bedrock of shared values. And we learned the counterintuitive power of strategic vulnerability, the beautiful mess effect that makes us more human and therefore more trustworthy. Finally, we learned to resonate. We mastered the art of framing our ideas, priming the environment for success, and wrapping our messages in the irresistible power of a narrative. We deconstructed the magic of charisma into the learnable skills of presence, power, and warmth, allowing us to not just deliver a message, but to become the message. You now have the tools. You possess a skill set that will fundamentally alter the trajectory of your career, the depth of your relationships, and your ability to make a meaningful impact on the world. But here at the end of our journey together, I must share one final, crucial truth. This is not a destination. It is a practice. Mastering human connection is not like learning to ride a bike, a skill you learn once and then have forever. It is like exercising a muscle. If you use it, it will grow stronger, more flexible, and more powerful than you can imagine. If you neglect it, it will atrophy. You will not be perfect. There will be days you fall back into old habits. You'll find yourself interrupting instead of deep listening. You'll catch yourself making a snap judgment based on the fundamental attribution error. You'll try to persuade with logic alone and watch it fall flat. In those moments, do not be discouraged. Those are not failures. They are reps. They are opportunities to learn. The goal is not perfection. It is progress. The conscious operator we spoke of in Chapter 1 does not expect to eliminate every bug in their mental software. They simply get better and faster at spotting them and choosing a different path. The responsibility of your new superpower. The ability to decode, align, and resonate is a superpower. It will allow you to navigate social situations with a grace and effectiveness that will seem almost magical to others. It will help you get the promotion, win the client, and deepen your friendships. But with this power comes a profound responsibility. It is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used to build or to break. You could use these techniques to manipulate, to win at all costs, to serve only your own ego. Many do, but that is not the path of a true mind hacker. The entire D.A.R protocol is built on a foundation of authenticity and empathy. Its aim is not to help you get your way, but to help you find a better way together. Its ultimate purpose is not to make you a more effective persuader, but to make you a more deeply connected human being. The goal is to use this power to close the gaps, not just for your own benefit, but to make your corner of the world a little less divided, a little more understanding, and a little more human. Use it to be the leader who builds a culture of trust. Use it to be the parent who truly understands their child's unspoken fears. Use it to be the friend who knows how to offer comfort without judgment. Use it to be the colleague who can turn adversaries into allies. Your first D.A.R conversation. A book can give you a map, but only you can take the first step. The journey from reading to doing is the most important one you will take. So I will leave you with a simple, immediate call to action. Sometime in the next 24 hours, I want you to have your first intentional D.A.R conversation. Don't pick the highest stakes conversation of your life. Pick a small one. It could be with the barista at your coffee shop, a colleague at work, or your partner at the end of the day. Your mission is simple. For 3 minutes, your only goal is to decode. Forget about what you want to say. Listen with the singular aim of understanding their world. Listen for the music behind their words. Notice their nonverbals. Align. Find one small point of genuine connection. It could be a shared feeling, like, it sounds like you've had a really long day. Or a shared value, like, I really admire how much you care about getting this right. Resonate. You don't need to persuade them of anything. Just try to make them feel seen. Use your presence, power, and warmth. Put your phone away. Make eye contact. Offer a genuine smile. That's it. That's the first rep. The world is full of people like Michael shouting brilliant ideas across a canyon of disconnection, wondering why no one is listening. You no longer have to be one of them. You have the plans. You have the tools. You know how to build the bridge. The work is not easy, but it is the most rewarding work you will ever do. It is the practice of a lifetime. Now, go start your first DA conversation. The world is waiting.